Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining our CKAN Monthly Live number 26. Today's discussion will be super duper interesting. We have some open data veterans, CKAN experts, long-time contributors on the call. We have Paul Walsh, who's currently a CTO at Link Digital. We have Adrià Mercader, who everyone knows. We have Ian Ward and we have Sergey Motornyuk. These folks are well known in the CKAN community, long-time contributors, part of CKAN tech team. And yeah, they'll present themselves in more detail, I guess, when we start the presentation. As you probably know, 2023 year was pretty intense for CKAN Project. It was a landmark year. We had many innovative projects. We had pretty interesting developments, collaborations, initiatives, and all these things kind of collectively advance CKAN's mission. We have the CKAN 3.0 team who's working on CKAN 3. You can check out a very interesting blog post. We have CKAN 2023, a year of milestones, where you can see basically the achievements of these folks. And now building upon this momentum, we have a new initiative that's being launched, and it's funded directly by Steven De Costa, who's one of the co-stewards, and it's driven by key developers here on the call now. So today they're going to tell us a bit more about this new funding and how it relates to the general CKAN tech team activities. They'll also tell us about some key topics which are currently explored, for example, the DCAT support, file management abstractions, and other stuff. So it's going to be very interesting discussion. Before I give them the mic, though, a few housekeeping items. So we have the welcome and introductions, which is about 10 minutes, and it's me right now talking. After that, we have the post presentation, which will be probably around 30 minutes. We have the discussion after that, some community announcements and sharing. I saw Bob just joined the call, so maybe he can share some exciting news from the post project. And then we have the closing. We have a meeting notes document. I dropped it in the chat, but I'll drop it again for the newcomers. This is our single source of truth document. You can open it. You can write down your name, affiliation, what brings you to CKAN. You can also drop your thoughts for future meetups or some agenda contributions. There are two ways to ask a question. If you're feeling brave, you can raise a hand and go ahead. Or if you're not feeling brave, you can drop your question in the chat and I'll bring it up for you. We encourage asking questions because we are all here to learn and share. Just a quick reminder, we have a CKAN Monthly Live newsletter. You can subscribe via the link on the screen. The presentation is available on the meeting notes document, or you can go to our website and also find the link down in the footer. It's monthly. We are not spamming anything, so just useful information. Before I give the mic to Paul, let me say that the session is being recorded and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. All relevant links, like the presentation from Paul and the team, and all other links will be available in the description under the video, so you can find everything that you need there. And with all set, let's welcome Paul and the other folks from Link Digital. You should be co-hosts, all of you, and you shouldn't have some troubles, but let me see. Let me know if you can share your screens. I'll stop presenting.
Yeah, I should be sharing now.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Great. So thanks, Joanna, and hi, everyone. I guess this is a section called Paul's presentation, but actually I'm going to just have, I don't know, 5 minutes at the start, explain the context of the funding initiative, what it means, and then hand over to Ian, Adrià, and Sergey so they can talk about actual work that they're doing right now. And then obviously we'll open up for questions and comments or anything else, okay? So I'm just sort of here hanging out with the cool kids. I get to give some type of intro, and then I'll hand it over to them to talk about the great stuff that is being worked on already. Great. So basically, first of all, everyone can go to the CKAN.org blog and see a post. I think it's the second to most recent blog, which explains some of the things that I'll talk about very briefly now. Towards the end of 2023, Ian and Adrià, both very long-time contributors to CKAN, were wrapping up at their current roles. Steven De Costa, Executive Director at Link Digital, one of the CKAN stewards, thought, okay, here's an opportunity. I want to put in some funding and keep Ian and Adrià really close to CKAN. Work with Sergey, who is already at Link Digital and also on the CKAN technical team, and have a really focused 12 months of technical development around the CKAN project. Now, and that is what's happened. Adrià and Ian started with Link in April. They are working almost completely full-time just on CKAN core and CKAN extensions. Sergey is also dedicating quite a large amount of time, especially in these last 2 months, to CKAN core and extension work. And that's basically a very unique and rare opportunity in the CKAN world. So obviously we've got a really great tech team. Everyone is working for the organizations they're working for, contributes to CKAN when and how they can, which is amazing. Now we have a unique opportunity, one that maybe hasn't come up for even up to 10 years around CKAN, back to when a lot of the development was happening just in open knowledge, or a lot of the drive was happening from there, where we have a couple of developers from the core CKAN team able to focus a large amount of time on bringing CKAN forward. Now, why would we want to do this? So we want to see accelerated CKAN development. Obviously, there's been a lot of change around and commercial entities around CKAN would see this, but also governments, where CKAN is a solution for data cataloging and data sharing and access control around data. There's a renewed interest. It's not just applied for open data portals anymore. There's a lot of a wide range of use cases that it turns out that a data catalog and capabilities like CKAN is very suitable for those use cases. So there's an expanded market. Also, obviously, over the last, say, 5, 7, 8 years, there's been an explosion in tooling around data for various reasons, but, you know, data-driven business and data analysis and analyst teams within businesses and within government and so on is something that's really grown and exploded in these last years. We want to make sure that CKAN continues to be extremely relevant for use cases that fit in with this data infrastructure, and continues to be an amazing go-to solution for data cataloging needs. And so that's building on things that have happened, like Joanna said before, in 2023, CKAN being recognized as a digital public good. We're seeing lots of private and public entities adopting CKAN. We have a really unique opportunity now with such focus from Ian and Adrià in particular, and also Sergey, to do serious technical, sort of low level and significant functionality and features around CKAN that can really help push the project forward and be there for all of these different markets and sectors and interests around CKAN. Just sort of a few points. So obviously that could mean things like modernizing CKAN. People who've coded, or Python developers who've looked at CKAN would know that because CKAN's been around so long, there are some parts that are older than newer. And so there's opportunities to modernize things. There's opportunities to go quite deep technically with such focused effort, which is a bit harder with the normal development pace at CKAN, with the sort of commitments to the CKAN project. So there's a new opportunity to go much deeper technically. And also by by developing out or sort of clarifying the narrative towards different use cases for CKAN, we can widen the tent of contribution. And what we would love to see after this sort of 12-month period of much higher frequency of development activity is an expanded set of communities and sort of sectors with interest in CKAN and adopting CKAN. Now, this initiative that Steven has funded is in parallel to other initiatives that are happening in CKAN. It's not instead of, or it doesn't take any efforts or drive away from other initiatives. So there's the CKAN 3 project, still continues exactly as it is. There's a lot of great UI work happening there. It could be that Sergey, Ian, and Adrià can help some of that move forward, but that's moving with its own team and with its own pace right now. In terms of how this initiative works with the CKAN tech team, well, Ian, Sergey, and Adrià are just part of the CKAN tech team and just continue to work exactly as they have been, just with higher frequency. But all of the same dynamics and way of working, way of bringing features and functionality and fixes into CKAN apply in exactly the same way. But we are hoping that as with this, which I alluded to a few minutes ago, with this stronger set of initiatives and a lot more activity around CKAN, that we do see more adjacent communities come back into interest in CKAN and look at adopting CKAN. And so I've mentioned here on this slide DCAT. Adrià will talk about that a little bit later, but that's an example of one such community or set of practices we would like to see CKAN really meet as the majority of the use cases for. Also, with such a focus on development activity over the last 12 months, it does open up a new opportunity to get more input from the wider community. So there's a survey here. I'm going to drop the survey into the chat right now, and I'm sure that we can, yeah, it's in there now. And I'm sure that we can follow up to participants in the call later to share this survey as well, where we'd like to invite people just to have a look at the things that we've listed out there that have just come up from early discussions, add your own suggestions, things you'd like to see in CKAN. And that can be things that are very technical. Survey form is restricted. Okay, I'll try and work it out, Eric. Or maybe Adrià, if you have access, if you could try and work it out while I'm still talking. So there's a chance to fill out a survey there to provide us some more input. Also, again, as all the normal way of working, nothing's really changed. So feel free to jump into GitHub discussions or on the Gita channel to interact with these people in the wider CKAN tech team, and with any thoughts or input that you have that where things might be able to be moved forward with this type of focused development activity planned over the next 12 months or so. That's pretty much it from me for the intro and the context of the funding. We don't really want to focus on the funding as such, just more on what it means for CKAN and what can actually be done. And given that this has been in effect since April, so already about 2 months in, it's really great that we're having this meeting 2 months in, because there's actually been quite a lot of work being done already. And so now I want to take this opportunity to hand over to the people who are doing the work. First of all, I'll hand over to Ian, who will talk about some of the focus that he has had for the last 2 months.
That's great. Thank you, Paul. So yes, I just want to say this initiative has been great for me personally, because I get to work with some amazing people, and I get to work on some problems that are maybe not a particular client's priority, but things that would help improve CKAN for everybody. And as well as a few items that I'm not going to cover today that are kind of more experimental, but some of the stuff that I've been working on that is related to elevating the developer and maintainer experience for CKAN. First up, I'm going to talk about the CKAN Docker project. I see Brett's here, and he's the guy that's been maintaining that. It's a really important way of getting new people into CKAN and started, especially for developing, just getting started up without needing to understand all the technologies. And I've been spending some time feeding into that process with some small improvements like documentation and caching and debugging improvements that I'll get into. The second thing that I've been working on is related to performance improvements, in particular startup, rendering time, and I'm currently working on updating the dataset time performance. So this is for sites that have lots of extras, lots of resources. I hope to see some really big improvements there. Part of this work has also driven me to improve some of the profiling in CKAN, and we'll see a slide on that in a minute. And while I've been working on updating dataset performance, I needed to revisit the models that are in CKAN. And so I realized that our models had sort of drifted out of sync with some of the migrations that we had in the system. And so what I worked on was adding the ability to automatically generate migrations and to sync up our models so that everything is aligned. Next slide, please, Paul. So the one thing that I want to highlight, that I've added to the CKAN Docker environment is the ability to remote debug with VS Code. And so this is, as a developer, I'm, about as old school as they come. I'm using terminal windows everywhere and Vim for, all my editing. I like using 1980s style debugging in a lot of cases where I drop into PDB when I need to fix a problem. But sometimes you need better tools, and Visual Studio Code is excellent when you don't know where a problem is coming from. So if something's just not working right, you don't know which part of the code base it's coming from, being able to launch VS Code, see all of your code there, set breakpoints wherever you want, interactively check, add watches and execute code. It's just much better than either the worksite debugging or sort of the older style PDB debugging. So what I've done is I've added an option to the environment in CKAN Docker that lets you run VS Code and connect to that environment to debug interactively, just as though you were running it locally. So for new developers, this is great because they don't have to know everything about setting up CKAN locally on their system. They can use the Docker environments that we've got for them and use some of the best of breed tools to help debug issues. Next slide, please. On performance, there's 2 pull requests that have already landed and have been merged and will be part of 2.11 for sure. The first is performance improvements to snippets. And for people that are maybe not used to customizing CKAN, you might not be familiar, but snippets are a feature that CKAN uses extensively to allow reusing small parts of a template to render a web page. They're used all over the place. They're used in forums. They're used in rendering search results. They're a really major part of pages that are rendered as part of CKAN. This performance improvement changes the way that rendering is done to give an overall, in this case, there was about a 20% improvement. And that kind of thing, I think, is pretty amazing because it means that with the hardware that you've got right now running your CKAN, when you upgrade to 2.11, you can serve 20% more pages, without the upgrade, and you don't have to do anything. So this is a really nice thing for the whole community, I think. The other area that I focused on was on startup performance, and this is something that maybe people don't care that much about. Usually CKAN, you just run it once, and it's running. What does it matter how long it takes to start up? Well, for a maintainer, that's something that you see every single time you launch the command line. You pay that startup time. So you could be waiting, 5 seconds or something just for a response to a simple command. If you're running the CKAN API to load data interactively, every single time you wait. So this is another performance improvement that just everybody gets. Suddenly, CKAN's faster using the CLI. So also really excited about this one. Next slide, please. In order to do this work, I needed to dig into the actual timing of what CKAN is doing so that I could figure out what parts I could actually make faster. And to do that, I updated the CKAN profile command. this is a command that generates an output that tells you which parts of the code are taking how much time. And you can see on this slide here, this is the this is the snake viz visualization of rendering one page. And the big bar at the top is the whole time for rendering the big template. And then as you get down to each level, the fraction that it's showing you there is the amount of time spent in each of those different parts of rendering the page. So this is really great for being able to focus on making changes that will actually have a big impact when you're trying to make performance better. And this is, again, merged, built into CKAN 2.11. Next slide, please. And the last change that I want to talk about is our models. So a little background. Models is the way that CKAN represents the database tables and relations and indexes. And over the years, we've made regular changes to those models as we've had to add features and change the way that things work. And in order to track that, CKAN comes with a set of migrations. We're now up to over 100 migration scripts that make changes to the models. And what's happened is those migration scripts have kind of drifted from what's actually represented in the code. And so when you look at the code, the models that that you're looking at aren't exactly what will be in your database. So what I did was I updated CKAN to use one of the Alembic features that allows automatic generation of migrations. So now, anytime a plugin developer or a CKAN developer is making a change to a model, we can have CKAN generate those migrations largely for us. And we know that the models that we're looking at in the source code is an accurate representation of what's actually in the database. So this is just all around great for when you're developing, adding features, and you need to make data changes. So yeah, that's it for me. I'll pass it off. Thanks, Paul.
Cool, great. Thanks, Ian. And next up, Sergey, want to tell us about what you've been working on? And do you want me to hand you screen share, Sergey?
Yes, let me just try once again to share the screen.
Okay.
If I accidentally disappear, then I was unable to do it. I'm still here, but probably you don't see my screen, right?
We see a black screen, at least that's what I see. Now we see you.
Yeah.
Try again.
Unfortunately, it means that it doesn't work at all. So problem is not fixed. Yes, Paul, please, I'll share a screen. I have one chart, two diagrams, actually. The one is above and the one is below. Paul and Google does not allow me to share the screen. So Paul, I'll send it to you in Slack.
Yeah,
Just when something can go wrong, it does.
Okay, do you see, am I sharing?
Yeah, can you zoom, yes, about the chart above. Yep, it goes from up to bottom, from right to left, just like classic Japanese writing. So basically, here is a representation of current situation of uploads in CKAN. It's pretty good. It works well. It was with us for 15 years, I believe, already, but it needs changes. So basically, what we have now. A user visits one of endpoints that support file uploads, which includes resource uploads and image uploads for groups and user avatars. Uploads the file goes somewhere, and then it's served. The first problem here is the fact that only user group images and resources can be uploaded. Anything else cannot be uploaded, and everyone have to implement every time some mechanism, some tools for uploading files. Every file stored somewhere in some unique way. There is no way to tell which files are garbage and can be removed, which files are actually used. And even with parts that are handled by CKAN, there are some gaps as well. For example, user images, the one that is above, they go to some public storage. There is a possibility to implement different way to store files on cloud, on a local file system somewhere, but all of them goes into one place: user images, group images, organization images, anything else, and it served publicly. CKAN just keeps public URL to the file, and that's it. CKAN actually doesn't know if file is still available in file system, or maybe file renamed, moved, changed. Nothing is known. We just have link. As for resources, the situation is a bit different. So resources kept in private file system, and CKAN doesn't know about those files. CKAN doesn't know whether they exist or not. Instead, CKAN assumes the following: every resource that theoretically can have file have unique ID, and CKAN just checks if file system has the file whose name match this ID. If there is such file, it's this file belongs to resource. Otherwise, this resource has no file. I assume that you can see the problem here. From this point, depending on whether user has access to resource or no, user can see file or cannot see. Now, Paul, can you please scroll down to the second diagram? And it can be read from left to right. So basically, that's the new approach that was suggested by Ian half a year ago, and I really liked it. And I previously worked with some similar ideas, so I, given the opportunity that a few months ago we started to work on CKAN more, I started implementing this functionality. So what we have now, we created a completely separate extension. It doesn't change CKAN behavior. It doesn't override anything. It doesn't break CKAN. You can install it, and everything will just work as it did before. But in addition, you have extra functionality. If you use it, you pay for it, and you have some benefits. If you don't use it, once again, nothing is broken, and no one will even notice. So this new functionality does the following. It allows you to configure multiple storages, which can be located anywhere, in file system, in database, in memory, in somewhere in web, FTP, cloud providers. And those storages by themselves not connected to entities like resource or group. It's just storage for file. User can upload different files into different storages. That's the first section with blue boxes, and then all of them, those moving arrows, go to database, to CKAN database where they are registered. We are not storing content of the file inside database. Instead, we store some generic information that may be interested to user, like file hash, to understand whether the file was changed or not recently, date of file access, modification, size of the file, its content type, file name, etc. So any meta information of the file, basically transforming file into the same meta entity as dataset is, or resource, or anything else. And then this blue arrow that leads to yellow zone with green boxes. Then in CKAN, we operate only those references to files. CKAN, once again, doesn't know about real files, doesn't know where they stored. For CKAN, it's just collection of files. In the same way, we have collection of data sets. It doesn't matter what is the type of data set, whether they have certain resources or no. It's just chunks of metadata. The same is true for files. They exist in CKAN, and they can be attached to literally anything. Here I showed the relationship. So file can be attached to resource as before. File can be attached to dataset, or to organization, or maybe kept with user. The main idea, file can have owner, and there is no restriction, like you can assign thousands of files to certain owner. Instead of keeping just one file with resource, you can assign 3, 5, 10 files if your data distribution format assumes that resources composite collection of items, not just a single file, not an archive. You can do it in this way. That's the first benefit from new system. The second bonus is those storages themselves. So basically, I checked it today, and yesterday a few times. Creating new storages in CKAN was pretty simple. There is an interface for it, but the main restriction, it was possible to change the place where resources or images are stored, but the logic remains the same. So resource assumed that somewhere exists file with name matching resource ID. Now, user can control absolutely every aspect of file existence, of a relation between file and entity that owns the file. So implementing new storage, like if you want to store files on Dropbox, will take you around 20 minutes as long as you know how to upload and download files to and from Dropbox. It doesn't matter where exactly. So if you want to store files in zip archive, on flash drive, on FTP, it's all the same. There is a list of minimal set of operations that must be implemented, and all of them require just small pieces of code from you to work. Majority of logic is handled already by files extension, but still there are hooks everywhere, so that if you don't like it, you can overwrite absolutely anything. So basically, it's not a new file management system. It's rather a tool for building such system and an example implementation of such system, what you can achieve with it. If you don't like, you just use low-level things from files extension and build your own abstraction. That's it. And probably the last thing from about those files, it's still in active development, by the way. Some concepts may change, but we really would appreciate your feedbacks if you try to use it. On base level, if you want CKAN as is, but in addition, you want to add file fields to dataset, to resource, to organization. For example, your dataset has some agreement or document that approves usage of this dataset, and you want to attach it as PDF. So if you have such use case, you can start using files. It has tests, it has type coverage. We will try to react on any issues and help with problems as soon as possible. So it's ready for usage, at least on some staging servers, and I'm sure that pretty soon it can be safely used on production. And yeah, that's it. So here another link for this extension. At the moment, it kept under data. So somehow, I see. I posted links, but I didn't scroll the chat. Yes. At the moment, this extension is hosted under Datasheets organization on GitHub, but it will be moved to CKAN organization soon and will be available from like main distribution point. You can try it, read documentation, and we really would be glad to see your feedbacks, because so I just yesterday or today used an example. You are not restricted by file system. So basically, you can think about using this system as you wish. Imagine that you have drive with images. You can create storage adapter that will read images from drive and apply Instagram filters to those images, giving user back already modified files. So it's not only file management system. It's rather middleware for data processing. If you want to parse, analyze data during upload, you can do it with files. If you want to create extra information, generate thumbnails, previews of videos, documents, there is a place to do it. So yes, that's what we have, and we want your interest and your comments. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you, Sergey. And we'll move over to Adrià, and then if there are any questions. So Adrià?
Yeah, can you pass me the screen, please?
You should be able to just take it.
There we go. Can people see my screen?
Yep,
Yes.
Yep.
Amazing. Okay, so yeah, I'll be very brief. I'll talk about everybody's favorite metadata standard, which is DCAT. CKAN has had kind of support for DCAT for a long time, but its development has followed what Paul mentioned in the past, previously, which basically there was a big push of development around DCAT many years ago, and then kind of fizzled down as resources disappear, and I just was able to keep like a very minimal kind of an eye on it to maintain it. And now it's obvious that DCAT as a common vocabulary for exchanging metadata, it's really core to CKAN's mission and vision. So it's an area that we really want to support well, to position CKAN as a good tool for sharing data. And now, especially very timely, now that DCAT version 3 and the application profile for Europe were officially released last week. So now it's like the perfect time for spending some time to basically modernizing a bit the current support for CKAN, and adapting to the new versions of the schema. So very, very briefly, like the work for the next few months is planned around 3 areas. The first one is about the foundational work needed to make the current DCAT extension to play more nicely with other parts of CKAN, and essentially removing a lot of the current complexity in implementing custom DCAT profiles on sites, and essentially making as easy as creating a custom metadata schema with CKAN scheming, and that will allow you automatically expose your metadata in a way that it's DCAT compliant on a series of application profiles that we want to support, or at least provide the basis that site maintainers can easily adapt and reuse for their own specific needs. The initial step is what I call scheming support, which essentially means integrating the standard CKAN validation process with the process of generating the RDF serializations for DCAT. And our plan is to provide pre-built metadata schemas, which are the JSON YAML files that define the fields that your CKAN instance will use. And basically picking this out of the box should give you a DCAT compliant metadata profile for your site. There's also ongoing support to support different extensions to the DCAT AP, like HBD. There's some initial great work by Eric from Links there. And there's other extensions that we want to explore and support. Of course, the end goal should be have support for DCAT 3, both the European and US flavors initially, and any other that is useful. But not only in terms of supporting the properties, as I will show you in a second, but also DCAT as a more widely defines other kind of entities and concepts which are not currently present in CKAN, things like dataset series or dataset relationships in particular, or others like data services. And these, I think they are valuable just behind, apart from the specific DCAT representation and compliance. These are interesting and useful concepts for an open data catalog. So we want to explore on how to implement those, and of course, expose them on a DCAT compliant way. In terms of showing you things, there's not not many exciting things, but basically just to showcase a bit what we're trying to achieve. The goal would be to start with a predefined schema, which is a file like this that defines all the fields that the CKAN instance will have. This one supports all the DCAT dataset and distribution properties, which is very likely that not all sites want to implement, but at least they cover all. And for those that are less strict, there's also a recommended version, which is the ones that include only the recommended properties by the DCAT application profile. These are just standard skimming schemas, which means that when you load them into your CKAN site, they automatically generate a form like this one, which they load the specific snippets, and the underlying validation, of course. So in this case, this is like a form for the full DCAT AP spec or whatever. So with all the fields, and the same for the resource, there's lots of other fields. I won't go and fill all the form now for you, but basically this ends up creating a data set with all the metadata filled up for the data set and for the resources. And then this CKAN metadata is automatically exposed in a semantic format that provides like a DCAT compliant metadata serialization. So in different formats supported by the underlying library. So this is RDF XML, there's JSON LD, and the goal is to have that these serializations that are provided out of the box, then that they will follow the standard and can be validated against like the validation framework based on shackle validation. That in this case, for the European portals, the DCAT AP validator profiles. So site maintainers are confident that the output that is created is valid. It's still not valid following all the combinations of this, because it takes into account like different contexts and stuff, and it will never be, because in some cases it's up to each of the individual sites to decide how to implement particular files, but at least we want to provide like a strong basis to so that site maintainers can build really easy different applications profiles for their needs. And just to finish up, I just added a couple of links on the slides, just a link to an overview issue where I explain like the whole process. There's the board on GitHub showing like the current process and things that are being worked on for people that want to follow up. And if you are technical and inclined to do so, you can definitely check out some of the ongoing pull requests. There's a lot of discussion there, and of course, any feedback is super greatly appreciated. And I'll leave it here.
Thanks, Adrià. Where are we? Great. Okay, so I see the time, so I'm going to jump within a couple of minutes to the next stage. So basically, just to recap, we can see the type of things that are being worked on already over the last 2 months are things that require quite intense technical implementation work. So it's amazing to see progress on these areas, like focusing on low-level performance in CKAN is something that's essential, but very hard to get anyone excited about unless they're dedicated to doing it. Wide DCAT support is so important across the US and Europe in particular, and particularly this year. And we have a real opportunity to nail it and make CKAN the data catalog for DCAT compatible data catalogs, and all the things around file management. And I'm sure that many people who've worked on CKAN installations over the recent years would know large files, small files, cloud storage, stream files through CKAN versus hand off the file and get it off cloud storage directly. All the different things that are around working with files will become possible with this type of work, and configurable, and you can design access and file access patterns to suit any use case, essentially. So deep work happening there. We shared earlier the survey. I saw in the chat that the survey is now public. We talk about some of these things here. These are some things that have just come up in discussions that I've had with the people, with Ian, Sergey, and Adrià. We're sure that the wider CKAN community has all sorts of things that they find interesting that are not necessarily the type of things that are already in the CKAN 3 roadmap. Some things might be quite technical. As you can see, if we can work on performance improvements or things like that, you know, let us know what's of interest, because this is, again, a rare opportunity to have focused development work by, you know, some of the leading tech team people. So please jump into the survey and let us know what's of interest to you. That's it. Then we were going to go over to Q&A. So I guess we can go back into the other agenda that you had, Joanna.
Yes, let's kick off the Q&A session now. Thank you for the great presentation, guys. Really inspiring. And let me see if we have some questions in the chat. I see some AI tools. I don't see any questions. So yeah, folks, if you have some questions, just raise your hand and go ahead, or just drop your questions in the chat. Joe, go ahead.
Well, awesome stuff. Very exciting developments for CKAN. I'm sorry, but one thing too that I hope we can start addressing, you know, these are much needed improvements, is engaging the community in terms of beyond the data publishers and the catalog maintainers to people who actually do something with the data. You know, like making them more effective storytellers, giving them some data capacity. It kind of recall, you know, some of the things that School of Data was doing way back when, that to make people more sophisticated data users, now that we're exposing and have a solid foundation with the data that we're helping publish. But yeah, this is awesome foundational stuff. Much props to everybody who's making this possible.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay, are there any other questions?
We just explained everything so well, you know. I get
Yes,
it.
that's the
You know.
first time. Like, since we have these meetups, that's the first time I don't see questions. Very comprehensive presentation, I guess. Yes. Dataset level search is asking Joe.
Dataset level search. Does anyone want to talk on that? I mean,
I think we have an item in the survey about different backends that might be good at, or better at supporting, you know, indexing the contents of the data. That might be related, but that wasn't an item that we had talked about, and it is technically already possible in Solr if you just, you know, do enough work in your before index. So yeah, I don't know. I think with a concrete use case, it would be good to see what the best way is to build that based on stuff that we already have, or maybe look at building on pluggable search work that's happening.
Yeah. I also see Hyun and Ray are interested in a more detailed discussion about DCAT tree support, as it is roadmap for US open data. Yep, the fact that it is in the US open data roadmap is that and the EU regulations around DCAT publication is why we're doing that now. We'd be delighted to get direct use cases and input on what you're looking for there. So perhaps we could set up a call to discuss that in more detail with what you're doing. I'm assuming you're still at the GSA, Hyun?
Yes, and
Yeah.
I will follow up so that we can set up something separate.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, most of what's been done in the last 2 months, as Adrià went over, is the low-level technical foundations to make extensive DCAT3 support possible. And progress is going great, but it's always good to hear from data publishers and regulators around data publication. So it'll be great to really get into details on use cases and the type of support you're looking for. And so please feel free to reach out.
Okay, there is a comment from Richard Dennis. Have long been an advocate for CKAN, but I've noticed that it isn't often mentioned when discussing solutions for metadata catalogs or data discovery. Perhaps we should consider broadening our outreach and engagement efforts to include the education research community where CKAN's capabilities could be highly beneficial.
Yeah, that's a great point, Richard. If you have any input you want to share on that, if you want to jump on a call, possibly with Alex Gostev, who is on the call here with us now. Alex, maybe you could follow up. Definitely, it's really interesting. CKAN, like we probably several of the commercial vendors do hear from, time to time from educational institutes or academic researchers and so on, and adopting CKAN as a metadata catalog for internal use or a wide range of use cases around metadata capture. But certainly there's a huge chunk of that market or sector that are just not aware of CKAN, because CKAN still, for many people, is an open data catalog, and they're not aware about the relationship between, say, an open data portal and metadata catalog. When CKAN is essentially a metadata catalog that serves beautifully for those types of education research use cases.
Yeah, it's typically and the first thing that, especially here in Europe, the first thing that is discussed, or the go-to solution, is that credit commercial solution, which begins with an F, and then the open source solution, which is Dataverse, which is primarily the go-to. I'm here in Denmark, and there's one institution which I won't reveal because I don't work for the institution. They have investigated, and they are using CKAN as a data portal, which basically means they're going to be capturing the metadata and then funneling it into a data lake and then creating a data discovery solution. But I deal with a lot of people, a lot of decision makers here in Europe, and CKAN absolutely is not on the tip of anyone's tongue. It's typically Dataverse, the F commercial solution, and then Invenio, which is the solution that's built or used for the Zenodo solution. And it's unfortunate because CKAN is a really good viable solution if you're looking for something like in the area of metadata catalog or even other solutions. But it is not known, and I don't know how you can go about reaching out to these various organizations. You probably have to be a little bit more dialed in as to what's going on in these areas, and maybe perhaps do a little bit more outreach, as opposed to developing a really good tool. Developing a really good tool is great and wonderful for the community at large, but I'm thinking that you want to expand that footprint. So this is my thought.
Thanks, Richard. That's absolutely fair. Absolutely fair. And luckily, I am located quite close to Denmark. So yeah, this is what I'm working on as well, to spread the world and to understand these different worlds. There are enterprises, there are cities, there are national governments, open data, metadata catalogs, other applications where CKAN can work. And somewhere our adoption is impressive, somewhere not. So it's a lot of stuff to work on. But thanks a lot for specifics. I'll contact you if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure, go ahead. Absolutely.
Oops, I was muted. So Luis is doubling the point, perhaps a fork of CKAN for scientific data. It would be awesome to have CKAN instances for publishing and cataloging data from experiments. Luis is a PhD, so yeah. Or doing his PhD, I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, there definitely wouldn't be a need to fork CKAN. There's enough customization ability at the dataset and data resource level to support those types of use cases for certain. Even if it's not widely done, there are definitely examples of catalogs for that. So,
there is also a comment from, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say the comment from Masood, which is integration with vector databases. So yeah, I guess probably everyone on this call has talked about that in the last year, because that's what everyone's talking about. Yeah, I think there are a few. I mean, maybe it's better that I hand over to someone else to talk. If Ian or Sergey or Adrià want to talk, otherwise I can say something.
Yeah, I think that best sort of aligns with some of the discussion around search plugins and different backends, because it would be great to have a purpose-built backend for that type of data, so that we could have CKAN continue to represent the data and work with it in Postgres, but then have that same data mirrored in like a vector database or whatever's the best tool for the analysis that's needed. And that's something that I think really kind of mirrors the idea of having a different type of search backend, because the search is really just another representation of the data that's in the database.
Thank you. There is a, yeah, it's a comment from Claire, Herbert, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, Claire. Yeah, we'd definitely be happy to chat with you. We're already working with you, and it'd be great to talk about that further, for sure. It's great.
I don't see any more questions in the chat, but let's give folks another 20 seconds for some questions. And then we have several minutes for some community announcements and sharing. Okay, I don't see any other questions.
Masood just raised his hand.
Oh, sorry. I thought this is the chat. Okay, go ahead, Masood.
Hi. Thanks for the great presentation, as always. I didn't quite understand. Are you planning to refactor the backend and incorporate the new search into CKAN altogether in order to kind of afford and support embedding data and metadata and databases? Or is it like you're using this as an infrastructure in order to connect to vector databases, and so people can take advantage of the capabilities of CKAN in conjunction with the existing vector databases that are out there in the market?
I think it's an open question. There is some work that's already been done towards Elasticsearch support by Dragon. Elasticsearch has really great support for vectors and other functionality that would be related to ML and AI workloads. Postgres, which CKAN already uses, has really good vector support. Whether whatever direction the team takes in terms of building some type of foundational infrastructure as part of CKAN to support those types of workflows, I guess depends on where, say, Ian, Sergey, Adrià, and the rest of the tech team take things. I definitely know of a number of other projects around CKAN all working in this space, but what that team does in CKAN core or in sort of very commonly adopted extensions, I guess we'll probably find out over the course of this year which direction.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. There is a question from Fergo. How much more work is planned? Any source of sustainable funding identified?
So the current funding will last 12 months from April for Ian and Adrià, pretty much full time, and additional funding for Sergey and other Link Digital staff to help and support. We're like, in general, like I've been talking with various research and academic institutes about funding that could feed into this in some way, but there's no other sustainable funding identified beyond that at this stage. No. Nice.
I think I'm just throwing it at you. I think since CKAN is at least with the presentations that I've been attending have been used for open data by local governments and provincial governments, etc. I think probably that would be some sort of a opportunity to kind of you know, dedicate a line of collaboration with local governments and places like that they've got public funds available to them, and then it just increases the opportunity. It's going to be like a win-win situation both for CKAN as well as the usage of CKAN in terms of the open data and for public usage.
Yeah, for sure. It's a tough nut to crack. I definitely know that at Link Digital, we do talk to some of our larger government clients about things like that, how they can sort of invest in, as it were, in towards the open source projects. But it's quite difficult, and especially when you talk about local governments, they're so busy and so focused on what they're doing that it's not very easy to get public funds from those types of sources into a project like this, unfortunately. With larger sort of federal agencies or state agencies, that can become more of a possibility.
Yeah, but if you happen to have any kind of initial plan or some sort of documentation that you later on you could share, I can pass it around to people that I know that they're working, like in Canada. I know a number of startups that they are closely involved with the local governments, and they can pave the way or open the door. I don't know. It's worth trying. I think it's because there would be use cases for them that they will benefit, and that's what you need to capitalize on, I think.
For sure. Okay, so if it's okay, I'll reach out to you, Masood.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll drop an email as well.
Okay, thank you. Great.
Cool.
Great. Do we have any other questions? I guess no. Okay, and I'm aware of time. So just to check quickly, Bob, I see you here. Would you like us to share some stuff about the post project now, or you prefer if we wait a little bit?
Yeah, no, we can at least let people know that late last week we got the funding announcement or funding award from the NSF here in the US. So that means that we can have a lot of resources to deploy to do a lot of the kind of things that came up in the chat and the conversation. So some of the things that you'll see will be like creating these new structures for participation in the ecosystem, giving people a chance to actually like build the kind of resources or develop use cases and things like that, making sure that our activities are inclusive. There'll be support for helping existing users upgrade to the latest version and staying on top of that as well. And then the final one or two final things like business planning and fundraising planning within the ecosystem, and then thinking about how we measure our performance too. So we have an initial blog post. We'll be on next month to kind of share more details, and Joel and Sammy of Dat here are really instrumental in this work. So Joel, I don't know if you have anything you want to add, but we'll be in to talk more about this. We have an initial blog post, and Joanna, we can post that, cross-post it now that it's all live. So I want to say thanks to everybody we engaged through this project over the year that we were working on that. Hopefully we did you justice in terms of the kind of things that you want to see, and it was really clear that you value the product and you value each other, and values really drove the approach that we took here too. So thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Doyle, would you like to add something?
No, just wanted to confirm that it was only possible because of the hard work that Bob did to really spur getting us this grant, and you can be sure we'll be doing more outreach, and a lot of things that were mentioned during the call will harmonize our work with the team, and we'll be moving and accelerating each other, supporting each other towards expanding the ecosystem.
Yeah, we'll be busy just getting the pieces in place for the next few weeks at least, and you'll hear from us on the next call, and we'd really look forward to hearing what you have to say. So, thank you, everybody.
Yes, so next month, our CKAN Monthly Live will be on July 17th. It happens every third Wednesday of the month, sorry, as you probably know. So we'll have the post team and that here will tell us more about this second stage. It's very exciting. Okay, let me see if there is something in the chat that I've missed. Michael is asking a question. Has anybody tried to connect CKAN to data spaces Gaia X IDSA? I don't know if somebody wants to take this one. And yes, some acknowledgements from Masoud. Okay, if there are no other comments or questions, I think we can wrap it up. What do you think? I don't see any activity, or maybe no. Let's see. Jesse?
Sorry, I just had a quick question for Adrià. I worked on just some fluent support or multilingual support for the DCAT extension, I think like a year and a half ago. Is that on the roadmap at all for the DCAT?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
cool.
That's part of it's proper on the skimming support, to have proper multilingual fluent support on the relevant fields for that. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, if you need any help with that at all, you can message me about it. Thanks.
You can leave your contact here, Jesse.
It's fine. I know how to reach Jesse. It's fine.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. Let me see. Chat again. Okay, Kate is saying about the monthly public forum that you can register for. There is a link in the chat. I think Steven will talk about creating meaningful change. If I'm not mistaken, I'm planning to join.
That's
okay.
Right. Thanks, Joanna.
Thank you too for sharing. Okay, I think it's time for a wrap up. Yeah, we overrun a little bit, but I think it's fine. That's a wrap, folks. A big shout out to Paul, Adrià, Ian, and Sergey for the fantastic presentation. You are rock stars, guys. Very inspiring. What you do is very inspiring. A special acknowledgement also for Steven, who, even though is not here on the call, what he does is truly inspiring. He is driving meaningful change, truly. And with all these community activities surrounding CKAN, I think now it's a very good time for alignment among the contributors. It's a great opportunity to see how your passion for CKAN and open data can contribute to its success in 2024. So join all these cool activities. Take part in them. It's a great time for CKAN. Thank you for joining our call today. I'm sure you found it the discussion very interesting, and I really hope it will spark some further contributions. Now is the time. Okay, so if you want to have a talk at CKAN Monthly Live, you can fill out the form in the presentation on screen, which is available in the meeting notes document, or you can email directly to me. We're always on the lookout for some interesting topics and discussions. So yeah, don't hesitate just to contact us. Also, if you have some topic suggestions, if you don't want to speak or participate, but you are interested in some topic, in the meeting notes document, there is a file which is named Suggestions for Topics and Speakers. You can open it and you can put some suggestions there and drop your ideas, and we'll make sure we find some speakers to cover the topic. As I said at the beginning, we have a newsletter. You can subscribe for it. It goes monthly, and we're not spamming, just useful updates. And now we are going to introduce more regular CKAN updates, which you'll be able to see everywhere, social media, inbox, everywhere. So you can learn the ongoing things in a comfortable way. If you need some support, if you want to learn how to get involved, you can get involved. You can head to ckan.org/community. There are plenty of ways you can get involved. You can join the weekly dev meetings. They're open for everyone. And they happen every Tuesday and Thursday, same time as CKAN Monthly Live. If you need help, you can go to Stack Overflow to ask some questions. Yeah, Paul just shared the presentation, and I will drop it in the meeting notes document and also under the video on YouTube. There are GitHub discussions for your burning questions or some support requests. If you found a bug, you can report it to security@ckan.org. And of course, if you want to stay connected, you can follow us. There is a Gitter chat, which is pretty active. We have LinkedIn, we have Twitter, we have YouTube. So follow us there to stay up to date with everything. That's it from me. Thank you for joining us today. And till we meet again, keep those data fires burning. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.